So today we are talking about the most interesting subject. I say this every time. To remind you, I'm Lindsey and I'm with Anna.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about 5 ways to improve your recovery. So I use that as an excuse not to get changed. I've come straight off my bike. I'm wearing my sunglasses to cover my dirty hair. And I just want to tell everybody out there that we really do practice what we preach, or practice.
Preach what we practice. We actually preach what we practice. I think that makes far more sense. But Lindsey, tell us why you were on your bike. What are you doing on your bike? Why are you biking?
I was on my bike because I've got a big bike race coming up in July, and I got up early this morning to train and then spent a lot of time on social media, and I got distracted. Then I ran out of time, and then I've had to play catch up all day. So that's really good planning. And I don't recommend people do that. And it's really good to focus on what it is you're trying to achieve rather than allowing your attention to be totally scattered, because it's not very efficient. That's what happened.
Being able to change your focus quickly and well and sufficiently is one of the top things that you teach athletes when you work as a sport and exercise psychologist, which is how I started, for one of the things that I started with before I became a performance expert, But you came off your bike, which is amazing. Here we are. We are talking about 5 ways to improve your recovery.
We could be really kind today, and we could list the ways right up front rather than making people wait to watch the whole video, because the reality of these 5 ways is they actually mean nothing until you understand why you're doing them.
Yes. I agree with that. Yeah, go for it.
Now I've lost my notes. Okay. Hydration. Drink
Number
water.
1.
Movement. Yes. Move your body to recover it. Nutrition. Eat food to recover it. What's the 4th one? Cold water swimming, or ice bathing, or cold. And the 5th one?
Stress management, massage therapy, active recovery. I don't know. Sleep. Did you say sleep? Amazing.
So there we have it, Anna. Right off the bat, we're giving away the special sauce. In order to improve your recovery, it's really, really important that you do those 5 things. Hydrate, move, eat, sleep, and use cold water. The thing about all of those things is that's really great. But if you don't actually know why you're doing it, and you don't take a conscious epigenetic approach, actually you're not going to improve your recovery at all. So shall we talk about that?
Yeah, so tell us why consciously changing these factors that impact your epigenetics, meaning your gene expression gets changed based on what you do, and it impacts your inflammation and your heart rate variability, all physiological pathways kind of like linked together. And you could, the fun thing is you could put it under a lot of different names and a lot of different, here are 5 things to. And if you say 5 things to improve your recovery, the funny thing is that when you say 5 ways to improve inflammation, the same thing comes out. And 5 ways to increase your heart rate variability, these are also 5 things that come out. Although cold water dipping could fall under active recovery as a name, but it's all the same. They all come to sleep, they all come to nutrition, they all come to hydration. On top of that, in some cases, depending on what you research, it will actually say social support as one of the important things.
Yes, lonely people recover slower than less lonely people.
They also live shorter, which is proven in a 75-year Harvard study, which is pretty exciting. So why? So it's like basically these things, I'm sure everybody's heard of that. heard of these things. And in our last YouTube that we did together about heart rate variability, you hear me say, like, it's a little bit boring. I'm like a little bit embarrassed that the first things that we're going to tell you are these things that I know you will have heard for ages, but how to apply them in your life and actually why you want to do it and why the consistency is so important. Once you start learning what the scientific research and data is behind it, and you start learning how you can follow the data by yourself by measuring this kind of data in your day-to-day life, then all of a sudden you start seeing results and changes that are data changes, not just slightly feeling changes. So
I think that's a really important point when you say I'm a bit embarrassed. The problem I'm finding is there's this basic conversation, but there's so much detail in it. And when you explain to a friend or a colleague or a client why hydration is so important, why sugar can be a problem for some people, when you understand why, because we're all quite intelligent, it suddenly becomes much easier to apply these things.
I agree.
And I agree with you. Keep going on about drinking water. Actually, if you have to put this in context. And the other thing I find very, very upsetting is the brainwashing that happens because of social media, because our subconscious absorbs 40 million bits of information per second, Anna, is that right?
That's very correct. Our subconscious does 40 million bits per second, and our conscious only 40 bits per second. So that's a million less, or depending where you start, a million more.
All of this data is flying at us through the internet. And remember, anything on the internet really is motivated by people trying to sell us things. So you're subconsciously absorbing data and information you're not actually assimilating, and it becomes incredibly hard to apply any of this. And I've got a lot of clients saying to me, I just want somebody to tell me what to do. That's not because they're not intelligent enough. It's because they're so overwhelmed with the data, subconsciously and consciously, that they're not actually able to assimilate it and apply it, which is where coaching, and we're going to talk about that later, and bespoke support is really coming into its own now. The data's all out there.
Yes. You know what's really exciting as well? I know that boring is not necessarily a word that we like, but the good news is that because the first round of answers to really make a large difference, and there is lots more data and lots more detail. For example, heart rate variability is a very sensitive measure that's impacted by so many different things that you can get lost in the data and where could it have come from. But there is some first round starting points. The good news about it being boring, that these 5 subjects or 6 subjects, that they are boring, the good news is they're also very easy to do and apply. Now, I think often the problem is that people have tried to just drink water and then not done other things. They have exercised and not done other things. And the beauty, when I'm teaching a masterclass for our 5-pillar method, and the beauty often is that the answer or the replies, the feedback from people at the end is, wow, yes, of course, this makes so much sense. And it feels so dumb that I haven't figured this out. But I have done all of the 5 different pillars that you guys talk about separately. I just never thought the trick was to do it all holistically, a little bit all at the same time and over time. And that is the thing that makes the difference. And so the good news about boring is do these boring things. Do them a little bit every day. Pay attention to them a little bit every day. Make them a little bit of a priority more. And then just keep going, and you will, if you enjoy seeing the data, you will feel the difference. Some other people will notice the difference, although that might take a little longer. And you will, if you record your data and watch it cleverly, see the changes in the data instantly.
And I've been saying to people, we don't think of the mind-body as a whole system yet. The pharmaceutical industry wants to give us a pill for our physical ailments, but we're a whole system. And you wouldn't race a Formula 1 car and only worry about the petrol. You're worrying about the oil in the engine, the tuning, the wheels, the suspension. I know nothing about Formula 1, but when we talk about just drink water, that's not enough.
Yes, that's so right. You want to know something that's really really exciting that I always learned from performance psychology, that if you are very clever as a performance psychologist, you improve their performance 2 to 5% on 5 different aspects. And then,
That's
depending on what you do, if you improve 5% over 5 subjects, you have improved them 25%. So when I work with Olympic athletes, musicians, top people in business at whatever level, I always say, I think this is my claim to fame. I told somebody this morning also, I said, you can put any human at any level, ideally at high level, because I get excited about that, because that's where my detail and skill comes out most. But you can put any human being in front of me. You can even blindfold me, and I will be able to increase their performance 5 to 10%, if not more, if you let me work with that person. If I just do the physical work from the 10-Security program, I will, with every athlete that will come and see me, improve them 2 to 5%. And then if you start talking about energy as a currency, you will improve them there by 2 to 5%.
And I think that's the exciting.
The beauty of boring is you all of them, your performance go up by 2%.
And that is where this mind-body approach is so important. You have to do all of the pillars at the same time. And there's no point just going to yoga. There's no point just doing breathwork. There's no point just doing talking therapy. There's an integration here that's so important, especially when you're building a you've said
metric feedback. Oh, yes.
The bioduality of each of us, that's where we are really seeing results with clients, because we're trying to work out where they are now, what suits them, and what are the best ways for them. Because especially if we start talking about heart rate variability, you can't compare light with light. You can't compare each other's scores. They're so individual. Anyway, can I just talk about water?
Please. I thought you'd never ask.
So the reason I can start with water, because it's the #1 recovery tool. The reason it's the #1 recovery tool is, and I am going to look at my notes, because it's important that I give you a study on this, because this is really interesting. Hydrating with alkaline water, which is filtered water, prevents the effects of metabolic acidosis. So basically, you drink water because it makes your body less acidic. This is a study from 2019. It's Chizitsky and Kurlias, I think I've pronounced that completely wrongly, but anyway, it's a really interesting study, because acid in the body creates inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of more than 50% of all deaths. Inflammation, both related diseases of the kidney, liver, and heart, etc., but also inflammation in mental disorders. This is about mortality. Drink water, reduce acidity, increase your mortality. And I've just watched a Joel Jameson YouTube about exactly this. If you're not into fitness, that's great, but do you want to live a bit longer? Do you, Anna?
I would like to live a little bit longer. Yes, I'd like that. And that's a very important focus for me. I think in my life, I've watched what the end of the road looks like if you do not take care of your body. And I've watched my own dad pass away in front of my eyes. That's the end. That's literally the end of the road of having your body fail. That was the occasion for him, as he died when he was 65. And I have also watched people completely unable to feed and dress themselves because they walked to the end of the road of mentally not being well. And I started at a very young age, and I saw cancer and other illnesses at a very young age. And I lived with a whole bunch of different disorders and things around me when I grew up. And I think sometimes people need to see the worst, but it's been a focus for me my entire life because of these things. And I have been focusing on trying to understand these things, because once you really see the end of life, you start to realize, oh, okay, we are maybe not invincible, and maybe I can do things to make it better. And you can do things to make it better. It's also great to learn a few more of the details about inflammation and about heart rate variability and about epigenetics, because they're all interlinked. the fun thing about inflammation is that chronic inflammation will reduce your heart rate variability, for example. Wow. If you get rid of your inflammation, you will improve your heart rate variability.
Now,
and the beauty is the intertwined web of it all.
The reason I'm so excited about these kind of conversations between you and I is because we come from totally different ends of the spectrum. Because I thought I was invincible because I couldn't feel any damage. And I just carried on thinking, well, I don't really know what the problem is. And, you know, I'll just push harder, Anna, because I have endless capacity and I'll just keep going. That can be sustainable for some time. And I see people push into old age, past 50 and 60, with that approach. When it unravels very, very quickly. And if you are one of those people,
and it's always ugly when it comes to bite you in the butt.
So having thought I was invincible, and now I'm obviously getting in tune with my nervous system, which I know you absolutely love laughing when I tell you how the highs and the lows feel. Oh, can feel sympathetic, parasympathetic, anxiety, joy, relaxation. I can feel all the feels. So I'm learning to navigate this. Can we talk about inflammation, heart rate variability, and heart rate as markers of fitness? Because we're talking about recovery.
Yes.
Heart rate. So your resting heart rate and your heart rate zones are a brilliant measure for fitness. Heart rate variability is the perfect measure of recovery because it shows your nervous system health, and your nervous system is impacted by multiple things, including inflammation. That isn't it, because I've spent thinking about this.
Can I add a little side note? You will all laugh as you keep watching our videos. You'll understand who's got what role and who's great in what when we do our work together. Lindsey often calls me the lab coat, and I get all detailed about things, and I can't help myself. But one of the important things to side note there is that heart rate variability is a measure that lots of different people who have different kind of watches are measuring. But it is very important to note that throughout the day, this data is constantly collected, but they are constantly influenced by everything that happens. So drink a glass of water, your heart rate variability goes up. Do exercise, your heart rate variability goes down. Why? Because heart rate variability simply says, is there balance between your on and your off, between the introvert and the extrovert kind of. And so depending on what kind of watch you have, because if you're watching this and you're not wearing a recovery strap or ring like a Whoop or an Aura, then you will get that data all day, every day on your watch. But that data is not really that interesting. The data of your heart rate variability in your deep sleep is a generally good number to go with, not your daily ups and downs, because people will get very confused with the endless amount of information. So if you're watching this and you want to know about your own heart rate variability, find the right heart rate variability.
And I had a really interesting read today about the different metrics being used by different tools. And there are two different ways of measuring heart rate variability. There's also the Morpheus device, which I'm going to investigate, which is another one which does more zone HRV, Anna, like you were just saying, deep sleep versus activity, because they are different. But Apple is actually using a different metric from all the others. Please don't start trying to compare one score in one tracker with another in another tracker with somebody else's. It doesn't work that way. We are off on to talking about HRV because it's so important. But can I just talk about the second thing we said is the recovery. The second way to recover quickly is movement. This is getting a bit boring now because the reason you have to move is to reduce inflammation. Back to the same point. You move to reduce the inflammation in your body. You move to improve the circulation. You move to improve the flexibility and the mobility of your body, which then impacts your nervous system, that then improves HRV. That was a really short, really, really short and dirty explanation.
Which is what you'll find something Lindsey's very good at, which is why we are great together. Because I can talk at great lengths and Lindsey can be really concise, which is not my skill.
I've got, not only have I got Anna in my life, as a lab coat, but I have an actual lab coat friend, and she often very gently just says, I noticed that you said something about such and such, and as I've got a PhD and blah, 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 can I just talk to you about that? And I always look at her and go, I was giving you the marketing version, not the real version. She's like, could you try and align it? There is some fact in what I've just said. It was the shortest, most condensed set of information. The reality is hydration and movement are absolutely key, but they all come back to the same thing. It's all about the stresses and the inflammation in your body.
Yes. The way to explain it to an 8-year-old, because parents are also watching with young kids, the way to explain it to an 8-year-old is your body is alive, as are you. If you think they're separate, if you don't think they're separate, let's just say you are alive. So your body is alive. And there's things that are going around in your body. You've got your blood flow going around. You've got your lymphatic system. There's also a glymphatic system, which is not written about much, but that's also going around. And so all these different things, you've got meridians, which if you like to listen to Chinese medicine, there is qi or energy going around in your body. And so your body, when it is alive, things are moving. That is the basis of being alive. And so if you would like to feel more alive, then make sure that what is moving around moves around more, and therefore you will feel more alive. It's very simple. And then you tell your 8-year-old kid, so if you have an internal system of water and you start adding new water to it because you're drinking it, you are adding more flow and you are adding clean stuff so that the dirty stuff can come out and that you don't end up with not enough water to go around. So that is how I would explain it to an 8-year-old, and how to get them to drink a little bit better, which I had to do when I worked with 2 8-year-old professional gymnasts who not only went to school, but trained 24 hours a week. Unbelievable. They both had injuries and came to see me, and I worked with both of them, and mostly with their parents. But that's my spiel for drinking more water. And they both ended up drinking more water and asking their parents, can I have a refill? So their parents didn't even have to pay attention to it anymore.
And I think, Anna, I don't understand really how hashtags and algorithms, in fact, I can barely work my phone, so it's a miracle we're even having this conversation due to your technical ability. But hashtag cellular activation, every time we breathe in, breathe out more deeply. Oh, look, you're replenishing the supplies in your body. Ooh, drink more. Oh, look, it's all the same principle. Movement is the same. And I think that's so key. We have to drink more water. The toxic load in the environment now is massive. We have to move that out, and we have to move that through. Hydration, movement. The third one is nutrition. Can I just say, this is so controversial, especially for cyclists who are fueling on glucose, obviously, because it is a fuel for your body and you need it when you're endurance training. Nutrition post-exercise is massively debated. The reality is your nutrition post-exercise for recovery has always got to be balanced protein, fats and carbs. So how you choose to do that is very, very personal. But if you are going to choose proteins, fats and carbs that are inflammatory, i.e. contain sugar, refined grains that can be very inflammatory and contain alcohol, seed oils and rubbish.
And processed foods.
Yeah, processed meat. You're not setting yourself up with the best chance of recovery. Whole fruits and vegetables and lean protein. Anything else apart from that is not helping your body. Your body can tolerate it. Your body can move. It can reduce the acid. It can move it through your system. But if you're really looking to maximize your recovery, that's it, isn't it? Have I missed something?
No, and I think this is a really important question, and you'll laugh so hard, Lindsey, because you know how picky and annoyed I get on this. You have to ask yourself, at what cost am I doing these things? Because everybody thinks they can get away with it. And then everybody at some point, when I was working just as an injury specialist, people were like, yeah, it just came out of nowhere. And I was like, how can you even think it came out of nowhere? Like, you've been building this up for the last 15 years. Yeah, I've been running, I've been taking care of my body. And then I go, how many hours a week did you spend on taking care of your body and recovering it and working and loosening up your tissue? They're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, that should have been taught at school, but it's not. But you you have to decide, and sometimes you only decide that when you've seen the ugliest. It's clever not to wait that long. But at some point you have to say, what are my priorities, and what am I going to put my energy and focus on? And what is, what's important to me? If it's important to you to be able to drink alcohol freely and lots of it and be social like that, great. But don't come crying when you've got some gut problem, or you've got some intestine problem, or your skin is looking different. I think I see the difference between people. I'm 37 now. I see the difference between people who are 37 and have drunken caffeine and alcohol their whole life. And I also see the difference now for people who've smoked. And so you have to constantly ask, you are never going to get away with anything. I'm pretty clever at all this stuff, and I also don't get away with it. You, like in our last podcast, you can't bypass it. So you have to decide, am I interested or not? If you're not, please stop listening. Please go and do your things. The less you know, the better it is. Blitz is ignorance, but know that it will come and bite you with the button sometimes at some point. And then it's too late to change something. But if you decide that you actually do care about these things, you need to make it a priority, and you need to actually care. Doing it a little bit half-heartedly is, well, it's better than nothing, but come on, you just...
I think what's so disappointing, Anna, is you see people who put in so much time and effort into their exercise and their training, especially the environment I live in, and then they're not doing daily mobility, and they're not fueling properly. They're just not maximizing their training at all. You think it's a bit of a waste of time, really.
Yes, it's really sad. You're like, wow, like people are spending so much money on their bikes and their shoes and their whatever, but they could have just gone and did the 10-security program, and they would have increased loads in loads of different areas.
10 minutes a day. That's all we're asking. And there's so many people say to me, Lindsey, I don't have 10 minutes a day. And I think, what are you doing all day? Because if I look at your screen time, I can see full well you've got more than 10 minutes going on there.
Yes. And the funny thing is, if you don't make it 10 minutes a day now, it's going to take off years later. So pick what you want. It's brutal, but sometimes it's a way to realize it. Anyway, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, but before we do that, can I just say these two words, because I think they're so good. Because I've been watching Huberman from Stanford University, and I think the podcasts are so long, but everything in there is so interesting. Non-functional overreaching and overtraining. Very few people are actually overtraining. 90% of athletes they studied at Stanford are performing with non-functional overreaching, which creates zero fitness gains. So they've
you know where that comes from, because people started thinking no pain, no gain. You just got to push hard, and it's totally not.
If you are watching your heart rate and your heart rate variability, and you are prioritizing your recovery, you will be making fitness gains. If you are not following those metrics, you are most likely non-functional overreaching and making no fitness gains. So what is the point?
Exactly. I agree. By the way, we wrote a really nice piece about this called the 12 non-negotiables.
Yes. On our website.
It's a blog. Yes. It's a blog. It's on our website. It actually is layered up in which order you would want to do it in your day. Look it up. We will link it underneath here also. It's called the 12 non-negotiables. And like I said in the last YouTube that we made, I've been playing around with this, and it's been incredible. Do you know what? One of the things is that I think actually really impacts my heart rate variability more than I believed.
Can you say this on camera? Is it rude?
No. I'd like it to be, but it's not. That's amazing. No, it's not rude. It's very basic. You're like, oh, okay. If I eat around sunset, which right now is about 6:30, if I eat around 6:30 and I'm finished at 7, I like starting to eat at 12 o'clock at 12 noon. So my eating window is 7 to 8 hours a day normally, when everything works well. I think 1 out of 20 doesn't work well, but normally I'm quite good at doing that. It means I finish eating at 7 and I go to bed at 10:30. One of the huge things that impacts your heart rate variability, makes it go higher than you thought it would, is making sure that 3 hours before you go to bed, you have had your dinner and you haven't had any food afterwards. Isn't that insane?
It is really insane. But again, this is not the single factor, because Anna, the other problem is when I do this, I'm like, I'm going to stop eating at 7 p.m. So the sun goes down, I remember saying here about 6:30. Do you know what happens? I haven't actually eaten enough breakfast or lunch either. Then I woke up in the night hungry. Then it messes up my HRV. So this is a really important thing to take in context. I am absolutely so annoyed at people watching their calorific expenditure through their wearable trackers, because please don't tell me 2,000 calories worth of Haribo's is going to do the same to your body as 2,000 calories worth of rump steak. Calories, you need to know your body to know you've eaten enough. If you're always hungry, you're not eating enough. End of story. If you are eating enough, try and finish eating by 7. I absolutely agree with you.
But if you like eating a lot, then stuff your face for 7 hours. At least your body has got loads of time to recover. Because this is, do you want to know something funny about heart rate variability? Another way to explain it is, if you have a high heart rate variability, it means you have a lot of resources you can use to do something. So high heart rate variability means you've got, let's say, 100 bits of resources that can be allocated to running, or allocated to digesting, or allocated to thinking hard, or allocated to enjoying life a lot, or doing 2 things at the same time, maybe. And so the higher the heart rate variability, the more resources you can have to put into one thing. So if somebody's a triathlete and they've got 20, it means all of it is going to just hopefully keep his heart beating and you know, and keep his muscles recovering, but it will never recover properly. So I love the, like, having more resources to make sure you can do it. So if you can let all your resources go to food, not all, but some of your resources go to digesting food for 8 hours, that means the other time of your day, those resources, especially if you've got lots, can go to something else, which is amazing.
Like repair and recovery and all the other things you need for your body to be amazing. And I read another study this week about exhaustion and patients suffering from mental health problems. So this terrible problem where people have got mental health problems and they are tired. This is really, I haven't got the study to hand, but this is really interesting. The reason they're so tired is their body, their nervous system is switched on, hyper vigilant, hyper alert, constantly burning energy as if you had a heater on low all the time, and it just drains their energy. They are unable to rest and digest at all. So they just, that's it, no energy, exhaustion.
Yeah, they also don't know how to be a clever accountant for the energy as a currency set up as our pillar number 1. They lose energy in things that are really not helpful. Yes. I would like to come to point number 4. I would like to call point number 4 active recovery. And under that can fall different things like jogging, swimming is a very good one. But we love talking about cold water dipping, don't we?
Well, only because we've had such fun. And I had another glorious dip this week. I mean, I think it was -4, but anyway, it's the most fun thing I've ever done, cold water dipping. There's no swimming involved. Why is this so good for you, Anna? And why is it so good for recovery and heart rate variability?
Well, I think, first of all, I'd like to use something that you told me when we met at some point at the start. You were like, I never quite realized that I had a body. And I think you always say there's a lot of people that are like that. This is where we differentiate. I always realized, yeah, Lindsey always says she was dead from the neck down. I've worked with a lot of people in different ways, mental, physical, at different levels, who would say the same. And it always baffles me, because I've always lived in my body and been very aware of it. But Lindsey would say, you know, I was dead from the neck down. And the beauty for people like that is that cold water is so cold that you're pretty numb when you're in the water, but when you come out, you cannot help but feel your body. And so for those people who forgot they have a body, for those people who are incredibly busy during the day, who live in their heads, I used to always explain them as they're just giant heads with two tiny little toes that pull themselves forwards, because the head is where it's at. Often these are incredibly clever people, very motivated, very ambitious, and busy and doing some amazing job, but they would be all head and tiny little toes to move themselves forwards. If they go dipping, they all of a sudden cannot help but feel their body because it's trying to warm itself up. And it's so cold. So as a little fun side thing, because this is not the scientific things that Lindsey was hoping for, I would say, but I really like that because it's such a simple way to say, like, I rarely am aware of my body. Great, get into really cold water, see what happens. And you'll remember very quickly.
I absolutely agree, and I'm delighted you've shared that, because the giant head client is the most challenging. I've got a giant head, a massive brain, I'm very clever, and they're so detached and dysregulated. It's a huge challenge. Get into cold water, turn the shower down, see what happens. Your body learns that as soon as you get in the cold, it switches your nervous system into rest and digest. I can't believe when I watch what happens to myself, that near-death experience, often when it's very, very cold here, that's the one that just flips you over. I'm aware we're running out of time, Anna, and the fifth one is sleep. Sleep is not a priority to many, many, many people that I work with, because they think they're Margaret Thatcher and they can exist on 4 or 5 hours. And then they tell me they can't sleep anyway, they can't get to sleep, they can't stay asleep. So what's the point? It's not efficient. I might as well get up. And they appear to be functioning perfectly well. Tell me your opinion on that.
I think they need to buy a better mattress and a pillow.
And maybe their HRV, and maybe think about their recovery.
Yes. So as you might have noticed, I like giving you things that come from left field that you might not have thought about, because I actually, honest to God, think that a lot of people, they spend a lot of money on bags or some nice jewelry or whatever, but you should buy a mattress and it should be measured to work with your body, and the slats and the pillow included. And you should spend money on that. And you should allocate 3,000 euros for that every 10 years. That's not that bad. Over 10 years, 300 euros, 3,000 euros is 300 euros a year. That's €1 a day. So that's my first most important thing.
If you check bed prices as well, I've just had a very interesting conversation with a friend. Due to global economic changes, bed prices have gone up dramatically. Buy a new one now, because at the moment they seem to be a hot commodity and they're increasing in price rapidly. I don't know where they're coming from. Sleeping, Anna, as a sophrologist, we do a lot of work on sleep because it's very, very important, and your nervous system and your mind-body connection all works together with sleep. Any other top tips? I've got a few in my pocket, but I want to hear what else you say. Top tips for sleep?
Yes, top tips for sleep. It is very important to have a range as a maximum of 30 minutes of going to bed time and waking up time. So sleep Yes. So sleep consistency, that is called, is really, really important. You will find that as number 12 on our non-negotiable 12 list, and it says sleep, and it says things about sleep, and it says sleep hygiene, sleep consistency, and sleep something else. And so sleep consistency means, because your body is a machine and it needs to do the same things at the same time, it will know what's coming. The same counts for eating. If you work with an Olympic athlete and you want to make them function as best as they can, you tell them you eat your food at the same time every single day. For sleep, which is what we're talking about now, you have your routine to go to sleep. It's always the same. And then that means that you manage to go to bed with the range of 30 minutes at the same time, and you wake up at the same time. That will actually help your body to know what's coming, instead of just being like, what are they going to throw at me? You save energy that way. You will sleep better, and it will make sleeping a lot better.
You gave me that advice about eat at the same time every day when I very first met you, and it's been the one thing that's been the most transformational to my body, because when you don't know when your food is coming, even subconsciously, your body goes a bit weird. But also, as soon as you stop worrying about, am I going to be hungry, the whole stress of eating, especially if you've got eating issues, goes away. So 7, 1 and 7 with a snack at 4 o'clock, if you've been training, obviously you might need to add a bit of extra in, is enough if you've eaten enough food. Been transformational for me.
I love that. That's amazing. It was transformational when I got taught it by my coach when I was an Olympic weightlifter, and he taught me so many cool things. You have a circadian rhythm. That means every 24 hours you're in a loop, and every 24 hours your body actually goes and does the same thing. Go on.
Sunlight on waking, sunrise recognition as well. Those two things make a massive difference, and fresh air.
Yes.
So
eating far before you fall asleep, that really makes a huge difference on your heart rate variability. The really funny thing is I have a Whoop. Lindsey has in her family Whoops and Oura Ring. I don't. I would love to actually have both and wear both and see what the outcome is. Maybe we should do that and give a review here.
No, don't start doing that.
I think because I'm biased, I have an opinion about what I prefer, but that'd be a good way to test out the difference.
You haven't got the Morpheus yet, Anna. Wait till you see this new one, because apparently this is blowing all the others away, but let's see, because we don't know about that yet. Could have 3.
I'm excited about that. Yes, maybe we should do a review of the 3. I've had a Whoop for 3 years, and I've been following things that are going on in Whoop and their podcasts and everything, and I just think it's absolutely incredible. One of the funny things is somebody asked a question about when I wake up, sometimes I have strain already, and sometimes I wake up and I have no strain. Now, the answer is if you eat late and you eat some heavy things, maybe potentially that, I'm sure that impacts it too. If you eat late, or you exercise late, your body is still recovering and doing things. So the cardiovascular strain that is being measured actually means that it continues while you sleep. So some people, like I have been playing around with this again a lot, with a great bit of focus, which is where the 12 non-negotiables blog also came from. And if you eat 3 hours before you go to bed and you don't exercise in the meantime, let's just talk about actual exercise there, and then in the morning you wake up with 0.1 or 0.2 strain. But if you eat late, which I managed to do this Thursday, and I stayed up late, and we drove back from a masterclass that I was teaching, and I was hungry on the way home, and I ate some nuts because I took them with me. It was a bad idea altogether. And then I woke up with strain in the morning. And so, these things, that means overnight, while you've been sleeping, while your body could have used its time and energy to repair and recover and regenerate things, which is what it's built for, in your mind, your emotional stuff, your physical tissue. Instead of having that time to do those things, you kept it busy with strain on food.
Line on that one is, if you are concerned about looking young and healthy and youthful, I would suggest you really think about when you are eating, because your body needs the time at night to make all of that lovely collagen and things that make you look much younger. That is also something that's really important. I hear a lot of people ask me about aging, fitness, and also sort of skin health. We haven't got time to talk about that because gut health and skin are very closely related. But Anna, they're the 5 ways to enhance your recovery. I think we've done it. I feel like I've learned more again by repeating it and chatting with you. 30-minute free discovery calls with us. Book online, or the link is below. Is that right?
Yes, there will be a link below. We will put it right at the top. So if you are listening to this and you think, wow, these girls, oh my God, they're amazing. Obviously they're full of life and energy, which is true. We are. We work very hard to be like that. And it comes a little bit naturally, but it also requires work on your epigenetics and your sleep routine and your sleep consistency and good old stuff like that. But if you think, what?
Being joyful, it's all about joy points as well. The more joy I have, the younger I look. It's incredible.
Yes, exactly. God, don't throw words like joy in there, right? When we're trying to wrap up, Lindsey.
But also, discovery calls, please book. There's a beautiful software breath video, I think, as well, that people can have a go with. They can go into the app and have a look at some of the stuff in there. And the blog is on the website, and there's all sorts of stuff. And we are making this as accessible as we can to everybody, because this is so important. Please, please, please.
Yes.
Please.
So if you think this is interesting and maybe these women can help me with X, Y, and Z, we probably can, because we're incredibly widely skilled and a multidisciplinary team between the two of us. So if you are wondering what we could do for you, please look below, click on the 30-minute free call link. You can sign up there. You can sign up whatever time is good for you. We would love to speak to you. Also, you can sign on for a subscription to the videos that come. We will be posting videos like this every week, and the blog link will be there, and the link to the 12 non-negotiables. So that's it, I think.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you soon.